guys, Matt Manduke here, and I'm sitting at the Union Lake Bluffs. Found this nice bossy spot here. It's very soft and cushioned, which is nice because I was just sitting on the beach and my butt's wet now. Anyway, I have for you another pro tips. Today's pro tips is choosing a vehicle. Depends on what job you're doing, and this isn't necessarily for your daily driver type vehicle. I'm more worried about professional vehicles, but even as a daily driver type vehicle, a lot of people are sold on the idea that they want something that looks cool. But let's be realistic here. The things that look cool generally aren't practical. If you're looking for a practical vehicle, you probably, if you're a pizza delivery driver, you want to look for something that gets good gas mileage and is dependable. In other words, if you're driving a Volkswagen, you're a moron. If you're driving like a Toyota Corolla, that's a great idea. If you're driving, maybe even a Scion TC, you want something a little sportier. But if you're driving a Mercedes, you're stupid. Because, let's be honest here, it gets horrible gas mileage. It's not dependable. And then when you have to do maintenance on it, it's a pain in the ass. So you want something, maybe a Honda Civic or something. I don't really recommend Hondas because they really can't take a beating. They're like a light duty car, and you'd be maintaining them all the time. Whereas Toyotas build a little heavier. If you got like a Chevy Spark or something, they're actually fairly decent vehicles from what it seems like. Granted, they might only go 300,000 miles, but are you planning on taking any other vehicle up to 300,000 miles? Probably not. Now, in the case that, say, you were starting some kind of like subcontracting or contracting type business, you probably want to look into a 2500 Chevy Express van, or possibly a 25 or 3500 Silverado, or if you're going to pick up a Ford pickup trucks, I wouldn't go for the vans because the 5.4 has some issues, but which you can actually see in my Angry at Ford video. Fords, I wouldn't go with the van because of what they did with the 5.4, but I would go with a pickup truck because it's a lot easier to deal with. They're not bad vehicles. They don't get great gas mileage, but let's face it, your work truck isn't going to, especially if you're looking at something that has a utility bed, because let's say you want to get a pickup truck, but you want the security of a van, you're probably going to want to get a utility bed. Utility bed still gives you space for something like a riding lawnmower, or you can get sheets of plywood and stuff in there. Or if you're trying to do it on a smaller scale, you could get something like an Astra van, which with a 4.3 liter 6-cylinder, and it's a mid-size van. It's still a minivan, but it's not as small as the Ford Windstor or the Dodge Caravan, or even the Chevy Venture. A minivan wouldn't be a horrible idea if you weren't trying to do anything heavy, but let's face it, the 4-cylinder is not made to do as much as a 6-cylinder, or if you're going to need a V8 because you're going to be doing trailering and towing and massive amounts of trash removal based, or heavy stuff, even scrapping, you probably want to get the V8 because the 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder is going to die. It's not going to be able to take the beating, so you want to go for that. However, if you're looking to start out small, an Astra van doesn't sound like a bad idea. You could actually seat 3 or 4 people without any problems and still have space to fit some stuff. You could get a riding lawnmower into one if you wanted to finagle it and play with it, and you could actually fit plywood onto the roof and be able, some of them actually have roof racks. In fact, I think most of them do, so it wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, if you're just a regular person, you want to pick a vehicle, well, do some research on it. If you want to get a mid-sized SUV, you should check out my Angry at Mid-sized SUVs, because they're a waste of fucking time. If you actually want to get something that's dependable, then, I'm not all for vans on all kinds of things, but, a station wagon is not a horrible idea as long as you don't get a Dodge. Which station wagons hardly exist, but Subaru does make the Forester, which is a station wagon with a 4-cylinder. It gets, relative to about 28 miles to the gallon, and it's all-wheel drive, and they're very safe and somewhat dependable. Good for about 300,000 miles, which apparently it's longer than most people are going to drive them. Which actually the Forester wouldn't be bad for a delivery car, and if you're doing the light-duty subcontracting stuff, it probably wouldn't be bad for that either. It's smaller than a minivan, but it's larger than a standard car, and in most cases it has more space in it than, say, a mid-size SUV. I'd probably go for a manual transmission. They're going to be a lot harder to find, but let's face it, they're harder to find because most of you don't know how to drive a manual transmission. Anyway, there's a little bit of pro tips on choosing a vehicle. Thanks for watching. I'll check you out next time.